Good afternoon and welcome back to the Orange Stage at ETL 2021. Delighted to be joined by Graham Simon today, who's going to be talking about AI and all things in that world. Before I do, just a couple of bits of housekeeping. The first one just regarding the Q&A session, which will be happening whilst Graham is talking. Our question and answers today are powered by Glisser. The easiest way to access that is via the QR code, which is over my left-hand shoulder at the moment, or via glsr.live/ETL21. If you are watching online, you can also access this by clicking on the plus button in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen at the moment. Also, for those of the people in the room, if you are wearing a headset, if we can just ask you to leave that on your seat at the end of the session, we can get that cleaned ahead of the next one. So without any further ado, I'm delighted to pass over to Graham, who's going to do his talk now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adam. Well, good afternoon. I'm Managing Director of a company called Delegate Select, and we've been providing one-to-one meetings at business events since 2007. So we've been doing this for quite a long time. Over the years, obviously, we've seen a lot of fads in the industry. We've seen a lot of changes, a lot of things come and go. But one of the things that we've seen come to the fore in the last maybe 3 or 4 years is this whole idea of AI matching. This is a very attractive idea to event organizers. It suggests you can set up your event, you can register people, maybe get information about them, and then you can let your computer figure out who should be meeting who and fill everybody's schedule. It's kind of like Wonderland, really. If it actually worked, it would be fantastic. But after being in the industry for 12 years, 13 years, we don't really think so much of this idea. Forgive me for being a little bit skeptical. We think that the success of networking at an event has a lot more to do with a number of factors, which I'll touch on at the end, and not so much to do with meeting recommendations made by your servers. So let me start with a question. Could you explain the difference between a system that used algorithms to determine suitable meeting partners and one that uses AI, artificial intelligence? No. I think if I had 100 people in the room, a lot of them would shake their heads. And this is great. This is great for marketing people. Many years ago, I worked for a company called IBM, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard of. And we used to have a motto there. It was BBB. Bullshit baffles brains. The idea was that if you could make it sound really complex, then, people didn't really question it. So let's talk about matching using algorithms. It's quite simple. You ask people questions. You ask your attendees questions. Supposing you've got to buy a seller event, you ask the suppliers, what do you offer? You can show the same things to your buyers, and you can ask them, what are you looking for? So at the simplest level, you can have a system that counts the number of correspondences between what people are looking for, what's being offered, and you can say, okay, there's 5 things in common. That should be a good meeting. They want to talk to each other. They got nothing in common. That's not a good meeting. You can take it a little further. You can give weightings to different things. You can ask other questions. So if you are asking a question like, do you have budgetary control? And someone says no, and another person says yes, then you might consider, well, that's actually a more useful meeting to meet with someone who's going to make a decision. Or do you have projects in which you will be requiring this service anytime soon? Someone says, immediately, 3 months, 6 months, a year. These are questions that are really useful for people to know when they want to meet each other. So that's how algorithms work. And that's how I think you will find that most people's software works. Even when they claim that they're doing AI matching, they're using some sort of algorithms to calculate. Now, let's take that a little further. Let's start to think about AI. This, I think, will be familiar. Is this familiar to everyone? So I can tell you all shop at Amazon, like the whole of the rest of the world. Now, Amazon has a lot of money, and they do use AI to promote sales. This is from my Amazon page, and I recently bought some paint to paint my garage door and some paintbrushes. So Amazon has made some recommendations on the purchases that I made. For some reason, it thinks I might like some garden lights, I guess, to light up the way from my back door to the garage. It's come up with a very unusual item, a strimmer for brush and hedges, or something like that. So I guess that's because I bought paintbrushes, so it made a match there. It's offering me a paint and a roller, okay. It's also suggesting all sorts of paints, because I've already bought paints. And this is probably what some other people have bought too. But as it happens, I don't really need these things. So if you're like me, you probably go to Amazon because you've got something specific you want to buy. You'll see these other things, and very occasionally something may pique your interest, and you'll buy it. Now, Amazon is working with a lot of big data, thousands, millions of customers, and even if one or two of them will pick up on the recommendations and spend a little more, it probably pays for the process. But when it comes to AI matching, maybe there's something that we can learn from this. Essentially, people are coming to events and they want to network. And when you network, you want to find either people you can partner with, suppliers, buyers, maybe business partners. So essentially, you're shopping for meeting partners. So let's look at how the Amazon process works, and then let's look at AI matching software. So Amazon will build a profile of you. It might use information that you've provided, but in Amazon's case, it'll probably look at the search technology, and most especially the things that you've bought. It'll then compare you with other people who have a similar purchasing profile, and it will look at them. It will also try to collect as much feedback as possible about the things that you purchase, and it'll be able to say, well, these guys purchased this, they had a really good experience, maybe you will too. And on that basis, they may recommend products that either you purchased or related to things you purchased in the past, or things that other shoppers who have a similar profile have purchased. Let's now take this over to AI matching software. So, an event software company who runs the event, like us, we will profile people. We'll profile your buyers, we'll profile our sellers, but actually the profiling questions are always chosen by the event organizers, because the event organizer obviously knows their audience better. So then it will compare your profile with others with a similar profile. Who's going to have a similar profile to you? It's going to be your competitors, isn't it? And in fact, actually, I think some of the software that we've used from competitive products has improved, but going back 2 or 3 years ago, when we got these lists of people we should be meeting at events, they were always our competitors. And we thought, well, maybe you could have weeded those out before you show them to us. But anyway, so you're being compared with other people. The next thing is the need to collect some sort of feedback, because really need to know how meetings go. And we'll talk about this on the next slide. But what it will do is it'll then come out and it'll say, these are all the people you should have been meeting, or maybe you should be meeting, who we think, our system thinks you'll have a good experience with. So, what's wrong with this? Well, first of all, Amazon has a huge amount of data. It's got a huge amount of resources. And even with all of its recommendations, the number of hits that it will get will be very, very small. What about an event software company? What sort of data does it have? Well, it'll have the data that you give it if it asks you profiling questions. But what it really doesn't have is the outcome to previous meetings. So even if you had a meeting with someone, it might not know whether it was good or bad. Now, software, and our software will do it too, you can collect the responses. So you can get the exhibitors to say whether the meeting was good or bad. Normally, actually, an organizer wants to know if the person turned up, because if the exhibitor tells them, oh, no one turned up, but they think that they did, especially in virtual meetings, you can see if people turn up, then they can't actually trust the data. And the reason is that if I'm a buyer and I have a really good meeting with a supplier, or even a supplier who has a really good meeting with a buyer, I don't actually want some piece of software recommending that meeting partner to all my competitors. So I would tend to kind of play down or try to reveal as little information as possible. Also, as an exhibitor, if you let the event organizer know that you had such a fantastic time at their show, you might be a little concerned that next time you apply to the show, the prices will go up. So that's another reason you might want to keep certain information to yourself. So the other thing is that everything changes over time. So even a person you met last year and you had a meeting with them, maybe your needs have changed. Maybe they satisfied your needs. You don't need to meet that company again, but you need to meet someone else because now there's something else you want for your meeting. So it's not really so useful as a process, but there's even more issues with this. Fundamentally, AI matching systems lack data, and I think you're probably quite grateful for that, because if someone's computer system knew all about you and all about your history and all about your relationships and all about your intentions, you would feel a little uncomfortable. I mean, it's bad enough when you go on to certain systems, or you even have a conversation in your house about something, and the next thing that pops up on your screen is an advertisement for what you've been talking about, and you wonder if Alexa really does have ears. But that, there's a lot of things. But one thing is that two people may look like a very good match to a computer system, but in practice there are a lot of reasons they won't want to meet each other. They may have bad history. They may have worked together and not got on. They may have had business before in different companies and that didn't go particularly well. They may even be competitors, because often people who come to shows as suppliers and exhibitors, they might register themselves as a visitor, but the system won't know, and it might say, oh, here's a visitor and here's a supplier, let's put them together. They may be good friends. It might be that Jane and Sue can just pick up the phone to each other and talk anytime, and they don't need to have a meeting arranged for them at an event. They may already be doing business and looking for another supplier and not want to meet that supplier. So there's lots of reasons that people don't want to meet, that your computer system software system will never know about. So essentially, how do you find meeting partners at events? Well, we think that the real intelligence is not in the computer system, but it's in the people using it. And what you need to do is give them the information that they need and give them filters so that they can find the right people. So even if you have an event with 4,000 people, if you can get them to profile themselves in some way, then you can put the filters. So here we have roles, responsibility, employee count, annual revenues. You know, show me a company that has these products and services, that's a big company because I want to deal with someone that's turning over a couple of million. Tell me about a companies that will sell to me in South America, whatever it is. Filter the list, then you get the target list. And then the user can very quickly determine, do I want to do business with these people? And they know the history, the relationships, and if they're in the same industry, they'll probably know those companies quite well and whether it's worth the meeting. And if they don't, they'll do what I do. I'll go on the internet, look at their website, and do a bit of research before I set the meetings up. So fundamentally, let's come to conclusion. Does AI matching deliver? Well, it may deliver to a degree, but a very small degree, because when I come to an event like this, or I go to any event and I get a list of, oh, these are the people you should be meeting, I quickly scan through them. I rarely find someone on there that I really want to meet. I go straight to the filtering. I say, we want people who said they're interested in networking and meetings at events. We do the ticketing and registration, let's find those. And then I've got the list of people that I'll start with, and then I'll pare it down from there. So AI matching may deliver to a degree, but we like MAHI. We'd love to get that word into the marketplace. That is machine-assisted human intelligence. So it sounds like I finished, but I have a bonus slide. Will you excuse me? I'll just take some water here. So if you want to run successful networking at your event, and I assume that's why you're here and listening to this, these are 6 very simple points that I think you might want to consider. Participant profiling is very, very important. If you've got a good relationship with your participants, if you can get them to answer the right questions, then you can have very successful networking. And we see this with our clients. We see clients who can really nail exactly what it is that their buyers want. And when the suppliers look at that, they can say yes, 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 yes. Or similarly, what the suppliers have to offer, and they can do the same. The second thing is, make your search and filtering process really simple. Don't put too many buttons and things on the screen. Just make it simple so that people can say, okay, request meetings, here are the filters, let's find these people. Another thing is, and we've seen very successful events, but we notice that the organizers are very engaged. They know the people who are coming, they follow them up, they will send out communications, hey, you haven't yet completed your profile, or you haven't yet completed a wish list of people that you would like to meet at this event, if it's a wish list-based event. They are continually in contact, and they can generate an awful lot of meetings. Good communications, that's a large part of it. If you're running a hosted buyer event, then don't just think, okay, we're looking after these guys, they're coming to our event, we'll fix them up with 6 meetings with suppliers who want to meet them. You might get the people to the table, but you can lead a horse to water, but it may not drink. You should really get the buyer buy-in. So when we do curated meetings, we will show the buyers, okay, these are the meetings we got planned for you. Let us know if you're going to turn up to them. Because the worst thing is to have your suppliers, who pay for your event fundamentally, come along, have meetings, and then find out that the buyers don't show. And then last point is educated users. Not every event is going to be great for networking. There are some sectors in which people are really attuned to it and they're really used to meeting. There are other sectors, more scientific, we find, like engineering, where people are a little reticent to engage in the networking. So don't expect that every event will naturally be a perfectly good networking event, and organizers, you know your industry, you know what'll work, but use the tools out there to get the most out of networking. So, thank you.
Amazing, thank you very much. Really insightful stuff. I know there's been a couple of questions coming in through Glisser during that, so we'll tackle those. If anyone that's watching or in the room has a question to ask, then Glisser is the right place to do that. glsr.live/ETL21 is where you need to head to. So you did kind of cover this off a little bit as we went through, but what would you say are the biggest risks with AI matching, and how can you best mitigate those?
Okay, the biggest risk in AI matching is that you trust it. That you say, okay, I don't have to do anything. This wonderful system is going to find all the matches. It's going to present all my attendees with the people they should be meeting. I can take a back seat. I don't have to be so engaged in the process. You know, as long as I've profiled people or given them the chance to profile themselves, then, you know, it'll all work out. Don't put your faith in AI matching. By all means, if you want to let people see, do something that we do. We just put a little box on the screen, on the filtering box, that says, show me all other people who match my profile. But that's algorithms. That's not AI matching. There's no artificial intelligence. We just count. But you can show people who match my profile. And that will be, I would say, probably just as effective as just sitting back and or more effective.
Yeah, I think one of the things with all technology as well, isn't it, is there's a bit of a risk of relying on the technology and getting lazy in terms of some of the stuff that you may historically have done to cultivate your list of people that are going to attend or whatever. So making sure that you steer clear of just saying that technology is going to do that, I don't need to do it anymore, is probably a bit of a risky approach to organising events in general, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so the next question, you referenced Amazon quite a lot at the early stages of your presentation, but so what do you think the event industry can learn from other industries, and where should we be looking for these lessons that they have already learned in different sectors?
There are companies that are using AI, but I really question the applicability of it to meetings and meeting matching. There may be quite a lot of areas inside the events industry where AI might be applicable if you've got big data. But to really be able to get the most of AI, you need an awful lot of data. I mean, I can see that if you had the ability and the resources to track everybody who's been to any of your events, to see what they tuned into, to even maybe use facial technology to see how happy they were in certain presentations, you could get a sense of what kind of presses the buttons for those people. But I don't think the events industry is there yet. I mean, you know, the products and services, products industry can do it with, you know, the technology, but they've got big budget and big data.
Okay, perfect. And obviously you're working in this space and you can talk to people about alternative ways of doing it and the algorithm-based model. If people did want to find out more information about that from yourself,
thank you very much.
Where's the best place for them to go?
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I stopped short, but we're Delegate Select. We put a lot of information on our website. To be honest, we don't do very much marketing, but we do get a lot of business by word of mouth. We have a curated meeting service that is really brilliant if you run buyer server event, buyer supplier events, and do have a look at it, and it's explained on our website as well. So thank you for that opportunity. Please go to delegateselect.com, contact me at graham.simon@delegateselect.com, but have a look and make an inquiry through the website if something appeals to you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us for this penultimate session on the Orange stage at ETL 21. As I mentioned at the start, if you are wearing headphones, if I can just ask you to leave them on your seats before you leave so that we can get those cleaned ahead of the final session today. Thank you very much for joining us. Hope you enjoy what remains of Event Tech Live 2021. And thank you very much to Graham for a very interesting presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. We're just